Hello, this is BTEC Psychology, and in this video we're going to look at section C2 of health psychology, and we're looking in particular at drug treatments for detox and withdrawal from alcohol. So the reason that we need drugs to help us along if we're coming off alcohol is that the withdrawal symptoms are really, really difficult to handle and actually in many cases very dangerous. So using some help medically is a really good idea, and it's really important to have medical supervision. So let's talk about a few of the drugs that are possible to use to help you as you come off alcohol. And in this video we're going to be covering 3 drugs that sort of tackle different parts of the process. So one drug that's really a last resort one is a drug which causes you to throw up when you drink alcohol. Another drug that basically addresses the withdrawal symptoms, which can include really severe anxiety, is called Benzodiazepines. And then the third drug is called Naltrexone, which is one that really blocks the reward and pleasure that someone feels when they drink alcohol, so they stop craving it. So let's go through each of those in detail. Disulfiram is the first drug that you need to know about, and this is what's known as an emetic drug. What that basically means is while you're on the drug, if you drink any alcohol, then it will cause you to either feel really, really sick or throw up, and that's known as hypersensitivity to alcohol. Basically what happens is you become conditioned. It's known as counter-conditioning because you already have a pleasant association of alcohol you have a pleasant association of enjoyment and nice feelings and so on with alcohol that make you want to drink it. So instead what you do is it's counter-conditioning you, replacing those pleasant associations with more negative ones of sickness so that you crave it less. Okay, the next one, Benzodiazepines. Now, this is a really common anti-anxiety drug, and as I said, it's used really to address the severe anxiety that comes as part of the initial withdrawal symptoms when you stop alcohol. So, Benzodiazepines, the way they work, basically, they calm down your brain. Your central nervous system, that means your brain and your spinal cord, what they do is they reduce the amount of signals going round in your brain and your central nervous system, which has a general calming effect. Now, how do they do that? Let's talk about the process in more detail. So, we have a neurotransmitter, a chemical in our brain that is called GABA, and that neurotransmitter is what's known as an inhibitory neurotransmitter, which is just a kind of neurotransmitter that reduces the number of signals being sent. So if I switch to my whiteboard, this is a synapse between 2 brain cells. Here in the synapse, we've got GABA floating around. When GABA attaches to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron, like this one here, what happens is basically it calms this neuron down. It makes this neuron less likely to produce an impulse. And that means that basically you've got less messages firing off in your brain the whole time. So it reduces activity and calms it down. The way that it does that is that these receptors are a channel, and what happens is when GABA binds, the channel opens and something moves in which calms it down. Okay? So I'll just say that once more. When GABA binds to receptors, it causes a channel to open. Something, actually negative chloride ions, moves in, which causes this cell to calm down. It doesn't excite the cell so that it's ready to fire an impulse. It calms it down so it's less likely to fire an impulse. Right, that's GABA. And what benzodiazepines do is they take that natural process and they extend it. So whereas GABA is naturally calming, we're going to extend and enhance what GABA is doing anyway and make it more calming. So all it's going to do is, let's go back to my diagram. Benzodiazepine, the drug, will bind also to the GABA receptors, And all that they will do is just cause that channel to remain open for longer so that more can go in, which calms it down more. So it's basically extending the length of time that GABA works for. So this is a benzodiazepine that I've pictured, and that's GABA. So GABA happens anyway, allowing chloride ions into the cell, which calm it down, make it less likely to send a signal. Benzodiazepines, if they're there at the same time, make the channel stay open for longer, so more stuff goes in, which calms it down further. Okay, and what all that does is it reduces the activity in the central nervous system, reduces the activity in your brain. So if you think about anxiety, you've got constant activity, you're always thinking things through again and again and again. Benzodiazepines reduce that. They stop some of those signals being sent. Right, naltrexone. This is what we call an opioid antagonist, and it works in an altogether different way. Firstly, we need to know what opioids are, which is a sort of drug which relieves pain. So, for example, morphine, also including heroin. And then we have a system in our brain. It's not one area of the brain, but it's receptors throughout the brain at different points. That's called the opioid system. And when our opioid receptors are activated by something binding to them, for example, if we have morphine, that causes our dopamine circuits also to be flooded with dopamine. That's because the two systems are linked together. Right, so we get, as you know, when the dopamine circuits flood, we get euphoria. So what happens is opioid antagonists, when we're drinking, by the way, when we're drinking alcohol, this same thing is happening. So opioid antagonists, what they do is, as on the right here in this picture, you can see that the blue square would be the right shape to activate this opioid receptor. And what is the antagonist drug is doing is sitting on top and blocking the receptor. So opioid antagonist drugs, for example naltrexone, sit on top of opioid receptors and stop them from being activated. So it blocks the opioid system. And that means that alcohol is not going to cause a rewarding dopamine release, rush of euphoria, pleasure, and then just nothing happens. And so it reduces craving over time. Okay, strengths of drug therapies. Firstly, it is effective. So in 2001, naltrexone was reviewed, and there was strong evidence that it reduced all of these things: alcohol craving, relapses, and quantity of alcohol drunk. So there's a really good evidence base behind it where it's been tested against other treatments or against no treatments. Okay, next one. It's also easy and convenient. If you compare it to something like having CBT to treat an addiction, that's going to be a really lengthy process where you have to go through long therapy sessions over a number of weeks. Actually, just taking a tablet is much easier and much quicker. Okay, however, tablets do have side effects, and I've put some of them down on the slide here for you to see. With Disulfiram, the temptation is, it's going to make you vomit if you have alcohol. It really requires willpower for you to keep taking it. You have to be really determined. It's too tempting to stop taking it. And then the last problem really is that it's only treating the symptoms, the physical symptoms, really, all of this. And so it's not really a long-term treatment. It might help you get through the initial withdrawal symptoms, but what it's not going to do is stop you from relapsing 12 months down the line. So for that reason, it's really good to also have therapy, which will actually get to the root of the problem as to why someone is an alcoholic and tackle that, which would stop them relapsing. Whereas drug therapy is just really a short-term treatment just to help with some of the physical symptoms. Okay, hope that helps.